Hi, I'm Amy and this video is part of my Reknit Revolution project. I'm going to show you how to sew up seams using mattress stitch as the final step of the replace cuff process. You'd use the same technique if you were altering a section within a garment, like this. You need to sew those seams at the end, or actually any time that you're sewing seams of something knitted. This isn't a special reknitting technique, but I know lots of people are unsure about how to sew up, so I thought I should include this in my video instructions. I've shown how to undo the seams of a garment, how to open a full row and then how to pick up the stitches and knit off them in two previous videos. I'm going to show you the sewing technique on this nice plain piece of fabric so you can see what I'm doing, and you could apply this technique to any structure. And I'm going to use contrast thread so that you can see what I'm doing, but you'd of course use something matching. So the first thing to note is that you're going to be stitching from the front of the fabric, which feels a bit weird. If you've done any sewing, you usually work with right sides together, but for this mattress stitch technique you work from the right side. It means that you can see the finish that you're achieving and get it really neat, and go back and you can see any problems and go back and fix them. Okay, so basically you're always going to be stitching in a column that's one stitch in from the edge. So we need to start off by spotting where that is. So here's the selvage and here is the V of a stitch. V, V, V. So I want to be stitching there. You can see that in the column between this column of V's and this column of V's. I'm going to be going there, and the equivalent on this side. So there's the V's at the edge. They might look a little bit weird on the selvage, but I'm stitching between that column of V's and this one next to them. Okay, so starting off is actually a bit trickier than once you're going. So I'm going to show you, start by coming out from back to front, and I tend to just leave my tail loose and then sew that in later rather than like tying a knot or anything that might end up in an unsightly location. So I'm coming from back to front there, and then I come over to this side and I'm going to go in. So I'm going one stitch in from the edge and I'm going to go right near the bottom. So on that side I was a little bit up from the very edge of the fabric. I'm going right at the bottom, and then I'm aiming to go, the rule is you always go under 2 bars. I can see 2 bars, 2 threads there, and I come out, and that should take me just a little bit higher than I started off here in principle. Just need to hold on to that edge. Okay, so now I've come back over to where I came out last on this side, which is there, and I go in where I last came out of, under 2 bars. See, it's much clearer now that I've just cleared that bottom edge, and out again. Back to this side, in where I last came out of, under 2 bars, and out. And you'll also note that I'm not pulling it tight as I do every stitch. The nice thing about this technique is that you can sew a little bit. So I'm just going to keep going while I talk. You can sew a little bit and then pull it tight, and so you can really see what you're doing. You're going in and out and in and out. And so here I've got a little bit. Obviously hold on to your tail, otherwise you just pull it all the way through. But if I pull that tight now, you can see that that's lining up pretty nicely. If you're not happy with how that bottom edge is, just go back and do it again. But you can see that those second columns are just sitting really nicely next to each other, and then I can carry on. In and out, in and out. You get the idea. So just do a little bit more. You can then pull that tight. Just give it a little stretch out so that your seam doesn't end up kind of awkwardly gathered. There you are. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so if you were doing using this to sew a replacement cuff, you would probably, well, you would at some point encounter the join with the original sleeve, and you would need to sew that seam as well. So obviously you might need to change colour. There might be a different gauge, the fabric might be much finer, but you would sew it in exactly the same structure. Just keep spotting those stitches, go one stitch in from the edge, and you'll get a nice finished edge. And the final thing to do would be to give the whole thing a good steam. So not pressing down on it with the iron, but just hovering over and letting the steam get into the fabric, and that will help the fibres to relax into their new positions. Okay, thank you.